Well, thank you. So it's such a wonderful thing to be able to talk with you and to see the development which is going on in your part of the world and to know what's going on in other places is pretty exciting, but still early days because there's so much to do. Um, I want to share my screen, so I'm going to try that now. Hello to everyone, and really glad to be here. And as you know, I'm John Liu, and this was me when I was actually young. Um, so at 26 years old, I went to China and I helped to open the CBS News Bureau eventually, and then I worked for CBS News and other TV companies for about 15 years, covering big geopolitical events. But it was something else that um, transformed me. I was asked by the World Bank in the middle of the 1990s to film the baseline study in the upper and middle reaches of the Yellow River in the Loess Plateau. Now, the Loess Plateau is the cradle of Chinese civilization. So this is where the Han race emerged to be the dominant culture. And this is the birthplace of the largest ethnic group on the planet. So it was really odd to me when I came and it was massively degraded and there was virtually no vegetation there. And I couldn't understand how the largest ethnic group on the planet could come from a place that basically looked like the moon. And obviously, it had been once a very fertile and productive place because it had given birth to this enormous um, culture and civilization. But when I went there, it looked like this. And so I spent quite a lot of time studying how does a place turn into something that looks like this. And I found it was kind of like doing ecological forensics. So the crime scene was there, but you know, who done it? What was the weapon, and also what was the motive for destroying this area? And so we found that basically we could tell what had happened and we could see the impacts. The hydrology was totally disrupted so that the soils were becoming the geologic materials in the subsoils, but the organic layer was gone and it was eroding away. And as it eroded away, it stopped infiltrating and retaining moisture and it became worse and worse. So if you can, I don't know if you know the Grand Canyon, but if you can imagine that every stream turns into the Grand Canyon, that was a little bit like what it was. And what the Chinese said was, okay, now they have a strange government there. And what they said was, all right, basically everything that you were doing before, cutting trees, growing crops on the sides of hills, and free ranging goats and sheep, all of that is now illegal. So when they said all of that is all illegal, basically the people had nothing to do because that's all that they were doing. And so the government said, all right, look, we wanted to transition to something that's sustainable. So you're going to have to learn something else. So they basically hired everybody to restore the landscape. And they did this for about 10 years. They had really, they had $500 million on a revolving loan. And so they asked everybody and they paid everybody to participate in this. And from 1994 to 2009, they were able to transform this landscape by massive participation. But if you realize that it's 45,000 square kilometers that they're transforming, then the cost and over 10 years is not very high. And the value that was created by completely transforming this area is enormous, even from a productivity point of view, but also from the climate mitigation and adaptation, or the protection and restoration of biodiversity. And I mean, essentially, it was a transformational change. And when I saw this, I realized they're bringing back the hydrological cycle. They're bringing back the biodiversity. They're bringing back the fertility in the soil. And that I had been covering in all these television networks and all the geopolitical and economic thinkers are thinking that what's going on with politics and economics was important. And I looked at this and I thought, this is vastly more important, because if you can restore this massive degraded areas, we could theoretically restore all degraded lands on the earth. And when I saw this, I just thought, well, that's amazing. And that's what we need to do. So basically, I stopped being a journalist and started studying ecology. And that's what I've been doing and communicating about this for the last 30 years, because this is more important than any of the things that I saw when I was young. And now I'm 70 years old, and it's actually, no one refers to the work I did when I was young, because that's old news. But everything that I've done in ecology continues to be studied. And I started to realize that what I was seeing was the result of evolutionary succession, that at an early point in time, we had, I'm afraid I've got the wrong, is it the wrong one? I don't know. Anyway, so gradually, I started to realize that this was so important and that it was understandable. And as I started to work on this, I realized that the successful places that I've been seeing, the restoration was done with people, and that the governments and the scientists, even, well, if nobody understood any of it, then it's pretty important. But really, the most important was that there was a collective intelligence and a collective intention to do this. And then when you did this, basically, we changed from competition with one another to collaboration with one another. And that this led to such enormous results that it seems like it's the next level of human civilization. Basically, if we are to survive, and if we were to have peace, and now you can see the ecological disruptions that are taking place, you can see the wars that are taking place, and yet here is this possibility to restore healthy systems. And that what I realized was that the values of this materialism, it's all about junk. It just ends up in the junk pile, and it's not nearly as valuable as the ecological function. And that if we want to survive, and we want our children to have the best possible future and future generations, that we're deciding quality of life for future generations by what we understand and what we do. And I saw that in the functional ecosystems, in the naturally developed ones, that you had principles. There's always more biodiversity, always more biomass, and always more accumulated organic matter. And that after human civilization began, we began to reverse evolutionary succession. And we had less biodiversity, less biomass, and less accumulated organic matter. And this altered the infiltration and retention of moisture, the soil fertility. It changed the gas exchanges with the atmosphere, and that this was a highly dangerous path that humanity was on. And I started to think about philosophically that we were looking at really the very, very long period. This is sort of strangely edited, excuse me. So feel free to find my collected writings there. But basically, I started to think about life and like eternity and infinity, and how that we have focused on what is really sort of finite and even to some extent abiotic, so that we're extracting minerals, we're making things, and we're looking at the things that we make, and we're saying that they're more valuable than life itself. And that allows us to destroy life on the planet, but it isn't true, because we've just made a mistake long ago and then compounded the error generation by generation by teaching people that somehow materialism is more valuable. And so the camps movement, which is reflected in the work you're doing, is also is something I started having dreams that people were going to just restore the earth, and we didn't need the governments or the international agencies or the scientists to tell us what to do. And here's a little film that came out of that.
The movement that we're building here together is about bringing back hope. It's about bringing back purpose in life.
The biggest problem that exists on our planet Earth now is climate change.
So as a result, we're facing so many problems, but the solution to them is the same. We start restoring the ecology, the ecosystems.
If we apply regenerative techniques to bring it back to life, this is enough to reverse climate change.
The purpose of ecosystem restoration camps is to restore land that has been degraded by humans.
What we need to do is go to the historically degraded landscapes, which were once the Garden of Eden.
Volunteers can come from around the world, or they can be local community members, volunteering 5 hours a day, helping to restore the planet.
We are ecosystem restoration camps. You're not waiting for somebody else to do the work. You join a group that is actually restoring this planet.
I quit my studies to come here to do a little bit of service, to give myself to the planet.
This is the thing that I wanted to do. This is the tribe that I want to join. Can be a solution bigger than the things that I can do alone.
This is where I want to be. This is what I want to be doing.
We need to stand up together. We're a new international of green-minded people.
It's a viral concept. That's why it's so strong. It starts with one camp. A lot of people going through that camp, they bring the idea home. They may start new camps.
To go from a very degraded ecosystem back to a fully functional ecosystem, everybody opened their eyes and are like, oh, it's that simple.
Desert used to be productive lands and could be made productive again.
It is possible to change a landscape from a desert and to completely regreen it so that there's food, water, and wildlife in abundance.
I think the camp also can teach us that we can live with very simple, eat the food we grow, sleep under the stars, and still have our comfort.
Camps is a simple way. People get closer to the earth and to the ecosystems themselves, and it's easy to implement and it doesn't leave traces.
great place to experiment for scientists, a great place to learn how to grow food, how to become more self-sufficient.
Soil is the basis of life.
If you have a soil that has no life, nothing good can grow from there.
So by restoring the ecosystem, which involves restoring the soil, adding more organic matter to the soil and more life, that soil will hold the water much longer, will hold much more nutrients, and that way bring back fertility.
As we start planting trees, we start taking carbon dioxide out of the atmosphere, we start that process of reversing climate change.
This area in Spain, for example, is one of the most abandoned areas in Spain. Degradation of the ecosystem mirrors in the degradation of society.
Not just about restoring the land, it's also about restoring the societies, restoring people.
With new people coming in and new knowledge coming in, connecting with local. So the bakery at the local village has a better business too.
Farmers will be an example of how to do things that they can copy on their land.
Be an inspiration for the region, for other farmers who are here struggling, but also for young people maybe to come back to the land and like see that farming actually can be cool.
Let's kind of bring back the spirit of childhood, of game, but of projects, of doing things together. I think that the camp will bring back that possibility of playing like a kid, but with a purpose.
So the more that ordinary people like you and me are able to stand up and support it, the more momentum that it's going to get.
Many initiatives all around the world are popping up. Everybody wants to make a camp now. That's fantastic, and that's what we wanted. We wanted to inspire the people to take initiative.
You can come to camp. I think that would be a really great option for someone who is available and wants to do something meaningful. They're going to be offering permaculture design courses here. But if you can't come, you can become a member of ecosystem restoration camps by donating €10 per month. That's just a really simple way to basically make these camps a reality.
We want to restore the earth. We want to live in the beautiful paradise that the earth is.
Come to ecosystem restoration camps and make part of the solution. Join other like-minded people who say, yeah, we can do it. We can reverse this biggest problem ever existed.
Going back to the ground, getting dirty, getting back to the soul with love, with joy, with compañerismo and camaradería is definitely going to make this happen.
So it's pretty interesting. There's now 60 camps in 6 continents, and that's in just about 6 years. So this is growing really fast, and I think it's a way for people to actually have a role to play in all the work, and I think what we're doing when we do this is that we're bringing the life synergy from all these people together to do something that needs to be done on the earth. And I think the governments and many other people, they're not really thinking about these things because they're focused on things which are less important. So that's what I wanted to share with you. And there's a lot of very specific things about food security, and there's some very important aspects that I think are really where we're at right now, which is to build the social infrastructure. We kind of know what needs to be done. We need to restore biodiversity, biomass, and accumulated organic matter all over the world. But on the other hand, we also have these greater problems which are emerging with huge disasters from floods and droughts and wildfires and hurricanes and earthquakes and so on. And there's also there's war and vast numbers of refugees. So the kind of things that I've been recommending right now for social infrastructure are central kitchens, which allow communities to connect the producers of food with the people who are hungry, and to avoid the idea that food is a commodity, but consider that food is a right. And that also means that we could apply some ecological concepts, like the idea that in nature there's no waste. So why is there waste in the food system? And I mean, if you actually calculate what's going on in the global food system, probably, as much as 40%, maybe 50% is lost. So this makes no sense whatsoever. And especially when we see that there are large numbers of people who are hungry. So communities by themselves can answer this by connecting their producers with central kitchens, and they can employ everybody in feeding the people who need to be fed, and that's all of us. And then at the same time, processing all the surplus so that it can be eaten later. And then and another thing that I've been thinking about is creator spaces, because I've been looking at most of the places where I'm asked to advise are places that have been where the fertility and resources have been exploited and extracted, and now you're left with a ruined landscape. So I think the future is not about the future definitely has us restoring degraded landscapes that have been degraded over historical time, but we can stop extracting by recycling and upcycling all the things that have been taken out. And maybe we can stop the concept that, because if we have, so the second thing that I've been talking about besides central kitchens is creator spaces, where we can actually recycle everything and give people access to repair everything or build new things and use the existing materials and make art again, make things that last and that your grandchildren and great-grandchildren are still using generations from now, rather than have a bunch of homogenized kind of junk that gets thrown out every once in a while, so you want a new one. Instead of that, let's just be more rational. And then the third thing is cultural stages, so that we can have music and dancing and theater and movies, and not also just consume homogenized culture from Hollywood or wherever. And I mean, how many zombies and vampires and hitmen do we actually need to see? I mean, once you've seen it, I think you can say, well, I don't want that. Let's not have vampires and zombies and hitmen and war. Let's have communities that function to take care of everyone. So that's what I've been thinking about, and I'm happy to answer any questions that I possibly can. I have been to over 90 countries around the world, so looking at these concepts, and I'd be happy to share anything that I can with you.
Yeah, what we'll do now is there's leave space for
Yeah.
asking questions.
Thank you, John.
If there's any questions you'd like to ask of John, or
I think we've heard it back on. So thank you for sharing that.
And we can do that for another
Solidarity Network or Solid Network. Thank you.
I was chatting with John there in the breakout room.
Yeah, what we'll do now is there's
and
leave
we were
space
just talking
for
about
asking questions.
if
there's any questions you'd like to ask
60
of
camps
John,
set up now as a result of the initial camp.
And we can do that for another. Yeah.
I just wonder where does financial support
Anyway,
comes in.
I was chatting with John there in the
because
breakout
that's some
room.
of the issues we'd be struggling with.
And we
were
just talking
the
about
project we've going in Cavan.
he was saying, I think
there's not
60 camps
a whole
set
pile
up
of support given
as a result
to
of his
behind the scenes working, and the reality is they have to live. There's financial support. They have to live. There's still bills to pay and stuff like that. Because that's some of the issues we've always been struggling with our, the project we've going to have of, how these things. There's not a whole pile of support given to the behind the scenes working, and the reality is they have to live.
John, do you have anything
They
you'd
have
like
to
to
live.
add
There's
in
still
there,
bills to
Commander?
pay and stuff like that. So it's always been a struggle.
Well, I would just like to say,
in my experience,
it's a struggle
how these things
for all the people who are trying
get
to do this
funded
anywhere
and
in the world.
supported, and
But some people,
or is
some
anyone
people are
else
breaking
experiencing anything
through.
like that?
And I have noticed,
John, do you have anything you'd like to
personally,
add in there, Commander?
that there are two ways to look at this. Well, I would just like to say you have a kind of traditional, it's a struggle concept for all the people who are trying to do this give me money, then I'll do something. But some people, but if you don't give me any money, then I'm just not going to do anything. And I have noticed, or you could look at like this needs to be done. There are two ways to look at this. Fertility. On the one hand, you have a kind of traditional employment concept. Say, well, that's like what needs to be done. If you give me money, and then I'll do something. And if you don't give me any money, you're actually creating value. And so this is another. You could look at like different. This needs to be done. We have no fertility. We have no water. One of the things that we're working on, because everyone has the same problem. Say, well, that's what needs to be done. We're working on this and then do it. I don't know if you've been following what's happening. You're actually creating value, or. And so this is another change. This is a different community currency, different economic. Essentially, what you have, one of the things that we're working on, because everyone has the currencies, those are called fiat currencies. We're working on this concept right now. I don't know if you've been following what's happening with cryptocurrencies or in the blockchain or generally community currency in the Western world, especially. Essentially, what you have in terms of when you make money, you're creating debt. Those are called fiat debting the people. And right now, get the money. They have some structural. What we've seen with the rise of cryptocurrencies is that it's actually legal to make in the Western world, especially, and that if you make a currency, and so when you make money, you're creating debt. Is based on indebting the people. Traditional, who get the money definition of money. What we've seen with the rise of storehouse of value is that it's actually legal, and it's a trust currencies. And that if you make a currency that creates a currency that is trust mechanism, well, and it's only traded with those people who are inside the circle of trust, would be that's one thing, because there's another value, a means of exchange. Many of trust, most if not all of the cryptocurrencies are not about creating value. They're about speculation. That is a trust mechanism. So, and it's only traded with those people. I think we need to look at it from a different point of view. That's one thing, because there's another we want to create, which is real value. Many of, or as opposed to, if not all of the cryptocurrencies are not about creating value. People, they're about speculation to make money. You want to figure out a way to go forward. I think we need to look at it from a different point of view to make a new currency. We want to create this real value, as opposed to important for those people who try to speculate and help, and they could trade the currency and disadvantage others. Value in the currency, a way to go forward. And so then there's also a discussion of how to make a new currency exchangeable for fiat currencies. If you want to use, if you want to buy something for those people who are working on the market, but and they could trade the currency. I think what we're seeing is the value in the currency do everything that they're cracked up to do. There's also a discussion of how to make advantage those changeable for fiat currencies. If you want to use, so if you want to buy something, if we had a currency that on the market made to create value. I think what we're seeing is that the markets don't do everything. Rewarded, people were rewarded for creating value. Then that value advantage those who control the market. And that would incentivize more and more people to do what. If we had a currency that was, it's a completely different and quite challenging idea. It was, but so is restoring ecological people were rewarded for creating value.
Yeah,
and that value would continuously grow. Challenges, and that would like incentivize more and more people to do what needs to be done. My feeling is that it's a completely different and quite challenging idea. You're already so is restoring kind of ecological function on a planetary scale. Quixotic, so, in the if you like sense that you're giant tilting challenges or something. I kind of like giant challenges. But when my feeling is agree to do it and that enjoy try to do this, and it brings you satisfaction, then strangely, you're continuously creating value. It's quixotic. When you create value over long periods of time, tilting at windmills, either the society rewards you or it doesn't. But when I've noticed, for agree to do it and you enjoy doing it, and it brings you satisfaction. Never sold any paintings. And strangely, you're continuously like creating value. And when you create value over Mozart died in poverty. Either the society rewards you or it doesn't. Was a genius. And I've noticed, for instance, it doesn't mean Van Gogh that you didn't create value. Never sold any society failed. Now, if you try to understand it, but now we're at a crisis point, hundreds of millions of dollars. Actually, there will be no Mozart and there will be no poverty. And if the climate's kind of strange, changes continue at the rapid pace that they're going. So it doesn't mean somebody's going to have to that you didn't create value. It ends that the society failed to understand it. But now we're at a crisis, we're all going to where actually there will be no economy, and that's my feeling.
Thanks, John.
If the climate's
thanks, Imelda, for that
changes
too.
continue,
so Hannah's asked a question. She says her internet's not great, so somebody's going to have to. But she'd love to hear it from Síolta or from John about how ecosystem restoration can or is alleviating poverty local to camps, maybe similar.
That's my feeling.
Thanks, John.
Thinking about ways to lift barriers. Thanks, Imelda, for that too. So Hannah's asked a question. She says her internet's not great, so she doesn't think her internet's good, but she'd love to hear it from Síolta or from John about how ecosystem restoration can or is alleviating poverty local to camps, maybe similar to previous questions, thinking about ways to lift barriers for people getting involved and examples.
Are really a way to have this social infrastructure that allows. You may want to add something to this, but I was telling grow their own. I think that, as I mentioned before, I think that culture and that helps kitchens, everybody creator spaces moving forward, and at the same time are really allows you to get away to the point where you can have organized social infrastructure that allows instead of food as a commodity, grow their own, and allows you to recycle and upcycle all the local culture, stupid junk that helps everybody produced unnecessarily, and at the same time, past, that allows you to get the extraction and consumption food as a model, as a right, and then it also allows you to and allows you organized enough that you can actually have a local currency that would stupid that would junk that's been because you have unnecessarily people in a circle of trust, and they can stop between each other, extraction and consumption, the value of model being created, and then it also allows reward each other for this. Be organized enough that you can actually have a local currency growth, and that we can no longer really have sufficient numbers of people existing in a trust, and without having more and more collapse. And they would all know. So what we do need is growth was being created, but that growth has got to be in something which is sustainable and that would renewable lead to and growth benefits. And not only we can no longer really have growth, the people who are going to in the existing economy. So without we can do that if we create an economy. What we do need is based on restoring, but that growth has got to be in something which is sustainable, higher and renewable. And so this is that benefits, I think, not only the people who are alive today, but the people who are going to also requires trust. So, and it means we can do that collaboration, if we create an economy instead of which is based competition, on restoring the. So we've been taught to compete and valuing it, but competing is not in our best interest. And so best interest is to collaborate with one another and work together. The answer to that, because but it also requires trust is greater than the sum of the parts. Collaboration. So if we all work together, we can do. So we've been taught to compete, but competing is not in our best interest. And our best interest is to collaborate with one another and work together, because the sum
and I'll
of
add to Hannah's question too, is like, I'm doing a lot of workshops with schools at the moment, secondary schools too, and what I do just walking one question, is the problem poverty or is the problem wealth? Is it the problem if people have too little, or is it that some people have so much? It's systematic change, I think it is. But the other thing I do in the workshop is Hannah's question and do is like I'm doing a lot of workshops with kids to ground sector experience too, and what I do work on it about 5 minutes. And John, I think that's poverty or is the problem wealth? It's the best bit. You know, is it the problem if people it's 5 minutes, like it's such a good overview of the systematic change. I think one of the reasons. The other thing I do in the workshop is we have to look at the sustainable development goals. And it's on Netflix. And I'm not the biggest fan of sustainable development. John's work on it. Structure's not 5 minutes. And John, I think, but I do think they're useful for like if you look at it's the best 17 issues because it's 5 minutes. Like it's such a good overview of the Lisbon Plateau. And now one of the reasons, one of the workshops things we have to look at is the sustainable development. What I often do is I show that video. I'm not the biggest fan of the sustainable development goals. Essentially, what you structure's not to, but then you go. But I do think they're useful for like if you look at mapping out 17 issues. 17 issues the world's faces. Restoring ecosystems. So you talk about people they are hundreds of millions lifted out of poverty, and so in that scene, what I often do is I show that video. It's a 5-minute food. You can see much more food in the market. Essentially, what you show today. But then you go. Parents how many of the SDGs life on land impacted and then by restored ecosystems? So you talk about hoping to change climate, hundreds of millions lifted out of poverty. So you got life below water, top food, partnership for the goals. So it's like the project of restoring ecosystems. People who has all these parents are literally going to university. Like the life on land, the problems are interconnected, but so are the solutions. Start working on in the hoping to change climate, understanding of the structural causes too. So you got it's that interconnectedness too, and it's the whole partnership for the goal. So it's like the project of restoring ecosystems has all these knock-on effects. So it's like the problem. Jamie's asked the question now. Jamie, do you want to come in and ask that question? Start working on one as male voice. We need that understanding of the structural causes too. So. But yeah, it's that interconnectedness too, and it's the whole. Yeah, I know it should be your transition time. Maybe we can answer. Our question is, my question is so simple. So why is it so? Jamie's asked the question now. Jamie, do you want to come in and ask that question? So it's not just in our break male voices grappling on, and we have some.
Yeah.
Maybe
well, I don't think it. It maybe sounds simple, but I don't think it is.
Our question is,
I think that human
my question is so simple. So why is it so
behavior.
Incredibly hard to achieve? That's what was leading me to asking in our breakout group before I left abruptly.
That have happened in the past. So there have been many. Well, I don't think it grown. It maybe sounds simple, but I don't think it actually is simple. Places where I'm sure I think that human civilization is about patterned behavior. In ancient Rome, or you were in ancient China, again, you were in ancient Egypt, or ancient Maya civilizations. I mean, you'd probably think so. There have been many civilizations that have grown civilization, but all of them sort of are gone. You know, more or less. Places where I'm sure that they're not. If you were dominant culture in ancient Rome, or you were in ancient China. That's because, and each culture that comes after ancient Maya repeats the behaviors. I mean, you'd probably think you were at the climax. You know, they destroy civilization, the hydrology, the soil fertility, and lose the biodiversity, more or less. And then that place is no longer the dominant place, culture. But we can't do that anymore. That's because now we have culture that comes such an enormous population repeats the behavior scale. So there's no place to, they create a destroyed civilization. The hydrology, the soil fertility, and lose this civilization, and then that place is no longer the dominant. Oh, and there's a little one, but we can't do that anymore. That's because the future of now we have of the world such an enormous population. All of you are doing your part, so there's no place to. Yes, create a new civilization. Really, you have to transform this civilization, and this civilization is. I think that. And there's a little. It's not simple coming in to join us. It's about the future of compassion of the world. It's about love. All of you are doing your part to working together, and if we're willing to do that, I think that's really good. So that's what I think that we need. It's not if we repeat the behavior of the past, we're going to get the same result. Compassion, and it's actually the results get worse, and it's about working together. The level of degradation that we're seeing is, I think that's beyond anything that we've seen. That's what. So now you can have a need. And if we repeat the behavior satellite images, we're going to get the same result. Gigantic hurricanes in one picture at the same time, coming one after the other to wipe out. The level of degradation that we're seeing is beyond. I remember anything that we've seen. Like I need a sign. So now you can have signs do you need? Like if a satellite image with three gigantic hurricanes, a major city in one picture at the same time. Is that enough? One after the other. How about to wipe out taking out areas, an island, an entire island? I remember doing it twice or three times. I need a sign. Or how many signs do you need? When is it enough like signs? Have you got enough signs? How about an undersea earthquake, major city like New Orleans? Takes out multiple nuclear power plants. How about it spreads taking radioactivity an island, an entire island? You know, doing it twice or three times. We haven't even touched on the toxic system. When is it enough signs? Have you got enough signs? Release. How about an undersea industrial and industrial agriculture takes out multiple nuclear power plants and spreads and radioactivity what that does, how long and how difficult that is to remove from the system. I mean, we haven't even touched on the toxic what needs to be done. So we need to take these things on. If we don't take these things on, then we're just kicking agriculture down the road. Industry of all kinds, and we owe it to what that the young people and how long and how difficult that is to remove. Make sure that from the system, we face this, and that's what I remember in Japan when we Fukushima these things on. If we don't take these things on, all these old people said, "Okay, down the road, we'll go to do the cleanup," and because they said, "Well, we're going to die anyway." We understand. Let's not send the young people there. Make sure that the old people, we face this, and that's. I remember in Japan when the Fukushima, plant happened. I think all these old people said, "Okay, we'll go to do the cleanup." You need heroes, because they said, "Well, we're dying, and you need new ideas. You're not going to be able to send the old people there with the same ideas." And that's because if you do this, if you use the same ideas, you get the same result. We know what that result is. We're going to have to step up. Whether we can, now's the time. You need heroes, because. And you need new ideas. You're not going to be.
Any other questions or comments from anybody you'd like to share?
Because if you do this, if you use the same ideas, you get the same result. So we know what that result is. We need to know whether we can have a different one.
Maybe it's not a question, but just like ask you to talk.
Any other questions or comments from anybody you'd like to share?
Pollution and the kind of growing movement of micro-remediation. Because I find that really interesting and something I'm waiting to embrace as soon as I can.
Maybe it's not a question,
and then
but just like
the other topic would be like
more about
urban areas,
pollution
and the kind of growing movement of like how do you see them fitting into because I find ideal really interesting future and something I'm waiting to embrace as soon as I can. And then the other topic would be like
Paul Stamets is a good friend of mine, and I must say I'm taking quite a lot of mushrooms every day now.
The ideal
because of
future.
Him, and it's I feel like it's helpful. But, yes, I think we're the main thing I would say is a good friend of mine. All of these questions, I must say, I'm taking quite a lot of mushrooms every day now, and that. The best idea of him is to use collaborative inquiry like it's for collective intelligence. Yes, it's not really fair to anyone. The main thing I would say is that no, you solve all of these questions, and I think are not the real answer. Is that we have to solve it, and that like the best idea is to together collaborative inquiry scale collective has to decide the central intention of human civilization is to ensure that life can survive, that civilization can survive. That's a goal. The real answer is that we have to solve lots of things. Like we definitely need together biodiversity, biomass, planetary accumulated organic matter, because that's going to determine whether we have civilization is functional ecosystem, life whether we have survive, that civilization can survive. Gas exchange. Now that's because when you understand what carbon sequestration is, break it down to then you understand it's basically photosynthesis. We definitely need 3.8 billion biodiversity, biomass, and accumulated organic matter, because that's going to determine whether we have functional ecosystems, whether we have a canopy, gas exchange, and a ground cover. Because when you understand soil, what carbon sequestration is, pull the moisture, you understand it's basically into the lower and 3.8 billion years. And when they do that, they lower the surface temperatures. And when humans take away the vegetation, co-creating, and they take away the canopy and solar radiation and a ground cover and living soils. And this raises the moisture down into the lower, push the moisture into the lower atmosphere. And like when they do that, they lower the surface temperatures. And when humans soil take away the vegetation works, and they take away the soils, then the solar radiation directly hits the really good aeration, and you know exactly what you're doing. Creates thermic drafts, which push the organic soils as long as you've got organic material. Mycoremediation, it works. And biodiversity, soil, we can create botanical sanctuary. We can make 17 days. I can think of numerous ways to save exactly what you're doing. You can make enormous amounts of the endangered organic soils, but it has to be our central material. It has to be what we say we're going to do. And when we do that, when we can create botanical sanctuaries, we're creating value. I can think of numerous ways to save an economic system, which is based on true value, not based on rewarding people for, but it has to be creating pollution, and it has to be what we say we're going to do.
So, John, can I just ask you then to add to that then, in terms of this course of projects about creating resilient food systems?
So we have to create
we talked about ecosystem restoration, so then
which is based on true value,
comes into
not
that too.
based
So
on
how can we
rewarding
create food
people for
systems
creating pollution
that do
and
restore
destroying
ecosystems
things?
as well? That's win-win. So, John, can I just ask you then to add to that then, in terms of this course of projects feeds people, regenerates communities, food systems. So we talked about ecosystem restoration. So then,
I think
food security obviously comes into that too. So how can we create food systems that do restore ecosystems as well? That's win-win-win. So restores sequesters carbon, builds biodiversity, feeds people, regenerates communities.
So instead of having
on
food as a market, I think it's really going to have to take on. I think I mentioned it, but maybe you don't see quite the linkage. The economic reason, I think we have to have central kitchens, and we have to connect cucumber grown in with the people Israel and ship it to Ireland. That's all of us. Is like so. What? Instead of having food as a market commodity, so we're going to have to take on this economic reasoning. So the economics of it is wrong because you have a lot of ways. You can buy and you have this cucumber grown in Israel and ship it to Ireland. So hidden subsidies is like all of these things. Why would how is so the markets are good on manipulating because the people and the people are not the economics of it is wrong because you have a lot of consumers. And you have this thing. So you're not consumers. We're hidden subsidies. How dare they? Not so hidden subsidies. And we consume things, but that's not our identity. If that's our identity, the markets really at a low manipulating consciousness. The people, what we need now, and the people are not actually treated as people; they're treated as consumers. We understand that we're not only, we're not consumers, individuals, but beings. How dare they? We consume things, and that's not our identity. If that's our identity, we're on a planetary scale level of consciousness. These would not be so difficult. What we need now is a very high level. But if we don't, if we continue to realize that we're not only over a very long individuals, actually it's not that long in comparison to evolution. Time, but let's say 10 to 12,000 years we work together on a planetary scale. So if you look at these would not be so difficult years of evolutionary succession, and then you look but if we don't, if we continue to realize settled agriculture, over a very long historical time, that's created not domination in comparison to evolutionary a small minority. Let's say 10 to 12,000 years since settled agriculture, and the vast majority of land. 3.8. How could there be people with no land? And then you look at, you have to already accept the idea like and you think, what has that done? That's created some domination. I stole the land; it's mine. A small minority. I stole it. The vast majority of people and the vast majority of land. Argument. How could there be people with no land? You have to, but already over 12,000 years. The idea, like this is definitely. I marched in. I mean, people went into Africa, some people, grabbed the strongest and the most beautiful, and took them to another part of the world and said, "You're slaves, and we kill you and rape you and whatever it is." Argument, what? It's kind of hard to. How can you to put this together? But over 12,000 years, Wilberforce and others came and said, "Well, that's people went into Africa, grabbed the strongest. We won't do that anymore, except that we're going to another part of the world and said you're slaves, and we which basically makes everybody a wage slave." And like now you have all these people who are working just for money. So like, okay, like if you ask yourself, Wilberforce and others came and said, well, give me money. That's not a very good answer. So we won't do that anymore, except that we're going to create a debt-based economy. How do we answer all of those things simultaneously? Makes everybody a wage slave. And because it's about life. Now you have all these people who are working just for money. How do we feel about what we do? Like if you ask yourself, why am I doing this? And the answer is they give me money. I'm 70 years old. That's not a very good answer. Saying, well, so it's not really about how do we answer all of those things simultaneously. It's going to be about those, and because it's about life. It's about what is our life. I've lived a very interesting life and a full life. Life's energy. I'm not so unsatisfied about what I've done. I'm 70 years old, but so I want to see that it's better. Not to accept it's not really about me, but to change pretty soon. It's going to be about those who come after me. So thank you so much for inviting me and listening to me. At 70 years old, I'm amazed that anybody wants to listen to my ideas, but there it is. So I will talk your ear off if you let me. Don't cry.
Brilliant, thank you. And so we will see. Yeah, so we're meeting face to face next week or on Saturday. So really looking forward to hosting it up in Monaghan to begin the connection and see where this goes from. So yeah, thank you.
I can do that.
Thank you.